50-50 chance that it's going to go down okay, and 50 it's going to get lodged in your throat. So we grimaced every single time. We're trying to find excuses not to eat the vitamins, even though we know it's good for us. And it's an act of love that my mom's like, you better eat these vitamins. And so there we are, right? Now, if we look at books and information and teaching as the medicine, you got to design a way for people to take the medicine down. And I think somewhere along the way, they invented gummy savers, which don't feel like vitamins at all. They feel like a treat. And kids are super happy to eat gummy vitamins, right? Me too. Even as an adult, I don't eat them today, but I'm like, oh, shoot. And so these gel caps and coatings help us to take down the medicine. So when you're writing a book, think about what that coating is going to be like. So what you do is you draw them in with something that they're really interested in, like maybe purchasing psychology or philosophy or storytelling. And then within that are the lessons that you want to teach. So you have to come up with a really catchy title. Brendan Kane would probably refer to it as a hook point, something to draw people in, to stop them in their tracks. And you could do this test. If you were to take a mock-up of your book to the airport and put it on the stand, would you stop yourself? And if you watch people walking by, would they stop? And the airport is a pretty good place to determine like what books are selling really well. Why is that? Because you have a very short period of time. You have people who have time to kill, meaning that they're going to be on a long flight, so they do want to read something. And you have very finite shelf space. And it's an impulse buy. Nobody goes to the airport with the intention like, I'm going to buy the new X Stephen King novel. They just don't. They go there, they browse. So if your books can pop off the shelf and have that shelf appeal, that's the medicine, or I'm sorry, that's the sugar coating that we're talking about to make the medicine go down. Really think about that. So that's just the best piece of advice I can give to you. This applies to video content and any other kind of content you want people to read. What is the hook point? How do you draw them in? How do you make them interested in things that they're already interested in and then tie it into what you want to talk about? I hope that's helpful,
awesome.
Scott.
That's awesome. I think insight, it's the key to strategy. And I would love to just sit and watch people go buy a book like that. You know, it'll tell everything. Thanks.
Yeah.
Man.
So all you have to do is make a fake jacket the size of another book that's already there. Slip that jacket on. You don't even have to go through the expense of writing the book, and see if people will stop. And if they pick it up, they're like, hey, I'm the author and I'm just doing some experiment right now just to see what people are interested in. Why did that compel you to pick up? You might get into some legal trouble there. I'm just, maybe as a concept, we just think about it because I don't want to encourage any crimes being committed here.
I'll let you go first.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Chris. Izzy, I guess you wanted to share something.
Yes. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for being here. I'll bring my mic so you can
Nice.
hear.
Love it.
So I actually wanted to share an anecdote with you, if that's okay.
Yes.
So just because I think you're going to enjoy it. When I left my day job to become a full-time freelance, I was freaking out. I think I was crying because I'm like, what have I done? I'm not ready. I thought I was ready. I was really stressed out. And then I go to the mail and the pre-ordered book was in my hands. And I was like, this is the sign that I needed to be confident in my decision. So thank you for that book, because right now it's been almost 3 years that I'm working for myself. I am now in the Futur Pro group with you. And that was the kick that I needed. So I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Izzy. When you said the pre-ordered book came, I was like, and what was this book called? I was like, what is it? I'm on the edge of my seat here. You're referring to my book, right? Hopefully. There we go. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yes.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Izzy, for sharing that. All right. Who's next? Who has another question? If not, I can definitely go with mine. So, Eric, I see your hand. Go for it, man.
Hey, Chris, only one simple question for you. When's book number 2?
I love the question, Eric. First of all, beautiful background. I enjoy seeing the progress and evolution. You got your background game on, and it's making me a little self-conscious here. Okay. Book number 2. I'm thinking about writing a sales book. I think it's about 50 or 60% of the way there. I'd like to say that before year's end, if I lock myself in a room in November and December, I think I can get this thing done. And I think the concept of the book is very simple, and simple ideas to consume to help you become a better salesperson, to close more jobs, to get more clients, and to reduce the amount of stress that you have, to tap into your inner salesperson without feeling sleazy. So sell without feeling like you're selling. And I need to like get the big concepts down and then backfill it in with some stories and some examples to make it very useful. But I think people are going to enjoy this book. Thanks for asking, Eric.
Thank you.
Chris, I have another question for you.
Okay.
It is around how to be, and this I really feel like for myself is a struggle. It is feeling unique, feeling like you deserve to be successful. How would you distinguish yourself from someone who's maybe doing exactly the same service as you, so quote unquote a competition, and how can you show up? How can you be unique?
Okay. You love these suitcase questions where there's a lot to unpack, right? Okay, so there's idea of competition and showing up as yourself. Again, these are two different concepts. I think everybody needs to show up themselves, whether you have competition or not, whether you're unique or perceived to be unique or not, whether you're competing against yourself or against everybody. And I'm dabbling in kind of understanding Carl Jung's or Jungian principles, and there's something there that I find super fascinating, something that I'm trying to understand about myself and about other people. In Jung's approach, and it departs from Freud's understanding of ourself, there's this persona, and the persona is what most of us understand as ourself. It's how we show up to the world to fit in, to be accepted, and to get along and cooperate with others. And then there is something called the shadow self, the parts of us that are more carnal and more base, that we're afraid even to admit to ourselves that that's what we want. Let's say, for example, maybe you have lust in your heart that you want somebody that's not available, and that's your shadow self. But the persona says, you know what? We observe these rules of morality and ethics, and we don't pursue people who are unavailable, right? And so it's a balance, and the ego manages these two things. Now, the problem here is that if you're living two lives, it can become very complicated. It can be very stress-inducing, and it can lead you to some inner conflict, which doesn't help you to think clearly. So I think it's once the ego manages the persona and the shadow self, and they become the same, that you find harmony and you find bliss. So these carnal, more base desires that you have, maybe some of it goes away, and your public persona is a little bit edgier. It's not always trying to fit into some neat little mold and package to be accepted by others, that you find peace. And I think this is really important. I think the primary purpose of life is to be happy. And when what you think, say, and do are in perfect alignment, I think your chances of being much happier are much higher. And so that's what I'm always trying to work out. And so one thing that you can do to help get alignment between these two selves to become more unique in the marketplace is to look at not only your strengths, but to look at your weaknesses and find where those find harmony. Oftentimes I make reference to pop culture. I'm a big fan of comics. I think I mentioned that earlier today. And if you look at heroes who are all strength-based, they're not that interesting to us because there's a relatability problem. Superman is a pretty unrelatable character, I think, but I think this might ruffle some feathers because Superman is a superhuman. He's not even human. He's an alien with almost no weaknesses. His only real weakness is a rock, kryptonite. And so writers have to get really creative to put him in situations where he can appear human, which is, as a god, how do you determine the fate of lives? When there's a conflict and you have to rescue two people and you can't be in two places at the same time, that's Superman's real dilemma. It's the dilemma of a god. But when we look at characters from other publishers, like say Marvel, Spider-Man is probably one of the most popular characters, Peter Parker. Peter Parker is a high school scientist who is just trying to make rent and not be late for a date with his girlfriend, MJ. And he's just trying to maintain his job, go to school, get decent grades, and progress in his life. And so he's full of conflict. his whole life is one giant struggle just to make things work. And he almost always chooses to do the right thing while paying the price of his personal life falling apart. And that character is super endearing because we understand this person. We see ourselves in this person. In Pixar's like 27 or 21 rules of storytelling, the most important rule number one, is the audience admires characters more for their struggles than for their accomplishments. We need to think about that. And I say that because I want to tie it together with the shadow self. A lot of us appear online as our public persona, and we convince ourselves that's us. So we'll put on our face, we'll clean up our environment, or we'll show the one corner where it's super organized and that's it. And we let people assume that all our entire life is so well put together. We apply filters to the videos to make ourselves look different. And so when we go meet people in real life, if one day we're to meet one of our fans, we're sitting there thinking, well, I look nothing like the way I appear on camera because of all the filters and the artificial enhancements that have been made. So we feel super self-conscious. I mean, if you've ever been in that position and you feel like, gosh, do they think I'm that same person or not? And that's that fracture that exists between your persona and your shadow self. So my advice to every single person is, to whatever level of comfort that you can muster, start to introduce your shadow self to talk about the things that are not things that people would normally admire, but are 100% who you are. So sometimes I'm a little edgy with people. I can be cantankerous. I can be short. Some people will read that as being arrogant or rude or whatever it is. You know what? I'm okay with that because that is who I am. That's not a part that I hate. I like that I can speak very directly and sharply and be critical when it's necessary. And I don't mind that people think that that's too much for them. I'm okay with that. So I've learned to embrace almost all of my shadow self and to merge that within my persona. So if you're in the field of design, stop trying to be like everyone else. That spot is already taken. And the only way that you could stand out is to lean into your inner weirdness and let that, and celebrate that, let that out.
But how would you deal with judgment though? Especially when you show up as your true self.
Yes, very good
Judgment is
question.
going to be very hard.
Well, you have to ask yourself why you care so much about the opinions of other people. You don't even care about that many people. And my answer isn't great because it serves me well, but I know it's difficult for other people. I don't really care what other people think. When you feel whole inside, there's not this constant need to fill a hole, right? And this is the problem where maybe we weren't given enough love. We don't believe enough in our skill. There weren't enough positive affirmations. There aren't enough evidence in your life to show you that you are enough. And so we shift from being intrinsically motivated, which is from inside, to extrinsically motivated. And so what we do is we write a piece of content, whatever that is, a video, a blog post, a book, an article, something like that. And we don't even know if it's good. So we have no compass to point us in the right direction. So we put it out to the universe and ask the universe, please judge me on this work and tell me if I'm any good. When we're really just saying, does this piece connect with you or not? Has nothing to do with me. It's something I created. And what I create is not me. It's an expression of my current thinking. That's all. And how do I know this? Because just look back at your musical taste when you're 18, when you're 13, and when you're 7. It's changed a lot, I hope, for your sake. You're probably not listening to Barney anymore, right? And for me, at least some of the 80s bands are still like, they resonate with me. And some of them like, oh, I don't know what I was thinking. That was terrible. Like, why was I listening in the 90s to Vanilla Ice? I don't know. Why was I doing that, right? So we make poor decisions and we're okay. We're okay to admit that. I'm okay to admit it at least. So our tastes and our opinions and what we know changes and evolves all the time. So why is it that when we put out a piece of work and someone judges the work critically, we assume they're judging us, and they might be, and we accept that? That's problematic. So I think one of the roads towards happiness and self-confidence is to stop giving an F what people think. If you are doing something that's in alignment with who you are and you feel no guilt or shame over it, celebrate it. I write an opinion thing and somebody doesn't like that. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. Find someone that you like. I'm not trying to get everyone to like me. That's it. So here's the thing. If we want adoring, raving, fanatical fans and an audience, we have to accept that we're going to get some really vocal critics. You want a community, it comes with critics. That's how it works.
Oof, that's a lot to grasp there. I'm like, should I even post content anymore or should I just stop? It's definitely a different perspective and it takes time. I think like with my own experiences, I started like making content almost 2 to 3 years ago. The way I was posting content then was like, people are going to judge me for it. I'm not good with this piece of content. I am my work. But 2 years later, 3 years later, I'm like, I'm not even doing this for myself. I'm doing it to help other people. I'm trying to talk to someone who might not have access to someone like me, and maybe what I'm saying right now is of value to them. And that helped me like detach my identity from the work itself. But it's really hard. I just want to say that.
I understand, but I also want to dismantle a statement that you just made that is shared by a lot of artists and creative types. Okay,
For sure.
are you your work? I'm just going to ask this question to everybody, and I just want you to think about it because that phrase gets thrown around a lot. I am my work. You're only as good as the last thing you created. You've heard these expressions, right? Okay, and I would love to see those that are joining us live on the Zoom chat just to answer that question. It sounds rhetorical, but I'd like to ask you, are you your work? And are you only as good as the last thing that you've done? Okay, I'll just give a little bit of time. And many in my Future Pro community should already know the answer to this question. And some people seem reluctant to type in an answer. They're still thinking. I'll give it a couple more seconds before I answer this.
We
Okay.
haven't got a single yes.
Yes, which is either amazing or people are not being totally honest because they know where I'm gonna the semi truck is coming for you. And you're standing in the middle of the road, and I'm gonna hit you pretty hard. Okay, so what we have, and I think one of these things that works against our happiness is some kind of attachment bias. Like we attach ourselves to so many different things, right? And so let's just kind of explore this. Are you your clothes? Like when you wear clothes, does your clothes define you? And people are like, probably not. Because if you're stripped down to your birthday suit, aren't you still you? And so the things that you make, are they you? Let's kind of explore it a different way. And we often look at this, like a film that I like to reference is Vanilla Sky, which stars Tom Cruise. And he gets into a horrific car accident. Sorry, spoiler alert here, everybody. And he's horribly disfigured. And he goes through massive psychological trauma that he just can't get over because before he was a super handsome person and now he can't see himself anymore. And he's trying to reconcile the differences between the way he feels inside and the way he looks outside, right? And so people who suffer accidents and lose a limb, like a finger, an arm, a hand, a leg, a knee, an eye, whatever, are they not themselves anymore? So what I'd like to explore with you is this concept is how much of you do you physically lose before you stop becoming you? And if you take it all the way to extreme, which is where I like to go with this, you can lose a lot. You've seen science fiction characters where it's a brain in a vat of liquid and it's just a body of a robot, but your brain is who you are. Like we get a heart replacement. Are we still the same person? We get hip replacement. Aren't we still the same person? So if you look at your physical form as detached from who you are, some people would argue, are your soul and your intellect, and that usually lives within the brain, right? I don't know where the soul lives, but your intellect lives in your brain. So unless you suffer massive or traumatic brain injury, you still are who you are. So when you create a piece of work, a mark on a page, how is that you? That's the farthest thing or the furthest thing away from being you. And I don't understand that. So if I create a video, if I write a play, that is not me. It's an expression of my opinions and my creativity, my artistry, but it's not me. So we attach ourselves to our work. So when people critique the work, we feel like they're critiquing us. We got to get away from this. And the most powerful thing I've learned as a creative person is to be passionately detached from the work. I'm passionate when I'm working on it. I'm completely detached once my finger leaves the mouse or my hand leaves the pen. It's not me anymore. It's just a work. And that way I can look at it critically and objectively and make determinations as to how to improve it, if it's good or if it's not. And it's more important for me to understand that I know what's good versus waiting for other people to tell me what's good. Okay, I'm open for debate. So if somebody wants to do a follow-up and say, but what if? Let me know.
Yeah, I have an idea, but we literally have 5 more minutes. So for the chat, if we have some questions, I am sorry I cannot answer all of them, but please do reach out to Chris after this session or join his Future Pro community, and we would be more than loving to answer questions. So let me follow up with you on that, Chris, as a last note. So, and I say this personally, I'm not speaking about other creatives, I'm just speaking about my own journey. And the way I used to feel like when I post a piece of work, I feel like it's part of me, was honestly because I felt like I didn't have any other value to offer. So that was the only scope of things that I thought I was bringing value to the work. Therefore, I attached myself to it because I felt like that was my value, that was me as a person. Therefore, I take credit in a bad way. Therefore, I attach myself to the work a lot. Eventually, like after 2 or 3 years of experiment, I found that I'm more than just my work. I started leaning into things that make me a valuable human being, not just a valuable business person. But that was my own experience then. I didn't really feel like we had any other values. So
Was there a question?
no, that was more
Okay.
of an observation.
Then I'm just going to stare at you then.
Okay. Okay. So maybe last question around the book. Let's just get back and wrap things up. So, what is the one lesson that you would like to leave every reader of your book to the next decade, century?
I couldn't understand almost any of that. I think your voice was trailing off.
Okay. Let me try to repeat. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, if you speak consistently at a loud volume, I can hear you.
Okay. So my question was, what is the one lesson that you want to leave our audience with from the book?
Oh, I see. What's the one lesson I want to leave your audience from this podcast?
From my audience, from your audience, from anyone who reads the book, what is the one main lesson from the book itself that you want to read?
Okay. It's going to sound a little strange, okay? I just want each and every single person who can hear this to learn to love themselves, to accept themselves for who they are, for what you're good at and for what you're bad at, and all of it. All of it is you. And when you lean into this, when you become your own number one fan, I think it's a beautiful thing that happens. I think most of us are raised by parents who tried real hard in most cases, but they're flawed humans themselves with their busy lives and their complicated relationships. And they didn't have enough time to give you everything that you need. Even professional therapists don't raise great children because we're all flawed and we're doing our best. And so you're left with incomplete instructions on how to adult. And you go into the world seeking that same love, affection, and validation from someone who matters to you. And we transfer it from our parents to our friends, to our partners, and to society. And we're constantly looking for something and it'll never be fulfilled. There's this beautiful story written by Shel Silverstein. It's called The Missing Piece. Now, it's written for children, but it's deeply emotional and profound, even for adults to read. And if you don't know the story, you do need to look it up. There's a little shape, and it's a round circle, and it looks like he has a triangular wedge missing from it, kind of like Pac-Man or pizza with one slice missing. And so this character rolls out throughout the hillside, looking for its missing piece. And it sings a little song, "Heidi ho, here I go. Have you seen my missing piece?" And it sings the song. So ask the grasshopper, ask the butterfly. It asks everything, like, where are you? Are you my missing piece? And for a long time, it's looking for the right piece. Some pieces are too small. Some pieces are too big and it can't sing anymore. And eventually finds the perfect fit. And it sees this thing and it says, are you my missing piece? And the piece says, I don't know. Let's try. So they join together and they make a perfect circle. What happens then, it now is fully complete. It can no longer sing because it doesn't have a mouth anymore. And it can't look at the grass and enjoy it in the moment because it's rolling down the hill too fast. So eventually it spits that piece out and says, oh, I'm not missing a piece. I am whole as I am. And so I think it's a great allegory to the things that we're going through, that most of us don't have enough self-love, self-appreciation. We swing wildly from self-loathing to self-love, and we appear to be sometimes emotionally imbalanced and erratic. These are not good things. So I think a person who doesn't love themselves is hard to love. And we meet these people all the time in our lives, casually, and maybe the person that you're married to, your partner in life, has this same affliction, that they're looking for you to constantly fill some kind of need that lives within inside them. And it is draining for the other person. It's draining for your community. Imagine if I was like leading my Future Pro community and every day I just showed up, I'm like, tell me again how much you guys love me. Like, how important is this group to you? And I stopped learning to serve them. They would all just leave. It's like, this person is in need of therapy, is in need of love and a hug, but this is not what we signed up for. So what we do is we heal ourselves, we love ourselves, and we show up 100% as who we are. We're going to be less affected by external influences and factors, criticism and judgment. When we show our clients work that they just don't like and they say, this isn't working for me, we don't take it personally because we have enough love in our life and we have enough self-belief that we're like, okay, I understand it doesn't work for you. It doesn't make it bad, and it doesn't make me bad. And I always tell people, if you want to manipulate creative people, all you have to do is say this one thing, it'll tear their soul apart. Right? Is that the best that you can do? I was hoping for more. That will wreck someone. It will destroy them. And so what happens is, if you want to manipulate creatives, which I hope you don't, if you say those words, even if you don't mean it, they'll go back to the studio. They'll give you 10 times as much work. They'll cry blood streaming from their eyes just to fill that gap again, to be whole again. And luckily for me, I don't fall for those tricks. Some clients have tried those things on me. I'm like, yeah, okay, what were you expecting? And where did we miss this? Because I'm pretty sure my notes say this is exactly what you asked for, but putting that aside, how do we make this right? I'm not going back and telling my team, oh my God, you guys, the client said this was underwhelming. They were expecting more. And it's just that, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't play into those games. And so the one thing I want you to walk away from, having listened to this, the biggest lesson, because this is foundational, is to learn to love yourself and become your own number one fan. To stop looking for external validation, because all you need is already inside of you.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that, Chris. It means a lot. It hits the heart directly. Thank you so much. Yeah, where can people know and find more about you and what you're doing right now?
I'm everywhere on social media. I'm even on TikTok. What is a 50-year-old doing on TikTok? I don't know, but I'm on it. So you can find me at the Chris Do, D-O, on most social platforms, not all, but most. And if you're curious about the courses and joining our community, just go to thefutur.com. Future is spelled without an E. It's F-U-T-U-R.
I got you. All the links are in the chat. Check them out. Buy the book, buy the book, buy the book. And yes, thank you so much, Chris, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hopefully, we met expectations and hopefully we delivered way more value for everybody so far. Thank you so much. And yeah, I guess until we see you all again, we'll see you all in traffic. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.